what's amazing is this entire wall you're looking at has been shaped. This is bedrock. You see the angle that way, and we have Yusuf here as our guide, but also giving us the human perspective of the scale of what we're looking at. This is not a typical thing that tourists are allowed to see, but we have been granted allowance because Yusuf is a guide from this area. Yeah. No, I understand the right. Yeah, and that's hardly something that the dynastic Egyptians started and stopped. This is something before them. Uh-huh. Yeah, that's what we see in Peru too. It's like it was molded, not hacked out of. No, there's a lot of this kind of stuff, yeah, that we see. And most likely the same kind of time period, counter to the claims of most archaeologists. We think we're looking at pre-end of the Ice Age. And why is that? Because the end of the Ice Age was much more of a traumatic event than most people realize. It was not this gentle melting of the poles, but a lot of science is telling us that the Ice Age could have taken, or the end of the Ice Age could have taken less than 3 years for its major effect to happen, and that means raising of sea levels by 350 feet globally. From that, possibly destabilization of the Earth, and therefore a change in its axis from maybe from 0 to 23.5 degrees. Global catastrophic event which would have wiped out the majority of humanity as well as their knowledge. Look up Dr. Robert Schoch and Barbara Han Clow as two excellent authors on the subject of the end of the Ice Age.
So here we see some of the most ancient writings, because this kind of writings doesn't have any phonetic complements or transliteration symbols. The writings say Wisir Ab Kha Efra. This is Kha Efra, where the word Kafrin came from. Kha is a stage of the sun to rise, and we can see this as half disk rising, and then the other half circle here is the beams coming out of it. This is the stage Kha. F means 4 or 2, the rising of Ra, the disk of the sun. Wisir, we call it Usir, but it's the right noun for it is Wisir. Wisir Eb means the strong heart or the strong pulse. So if we understand that the pyramids were devices interacting with the cycles, then this complex, which my father believed it's the most ancient one, and it's the pyramid that's located on the top of the mound, would be the one interacting with the first stage, the rising of the sun. Kha Efra.
Yes. So that is that where the name for this pyramid
Yes,
comes from?
this is where the name of this pyramid comes from. Kha Efra, Kafrin, what was known as Kafrin.
But the Egyptologists think that this was the name of a pharaoh and this was his
Yeah, and they think this shape here, which is they know it as Sarkh, they think this was where the name was written before the symbol of Shenren, or what they know today as the cartouche.
Oh, okay.
So if this one is modern, or the writings here came after the pyramids of Cheops, how come the writings of the pyramids of Cheops, his writings is made in a Shenren, and here it's made in a Sarkh? Also doesn't fit with the story.
Oh, okay.
But this doesn't mean that it's a name of anything. It doesn't show that it's a name of anything, with the titles and things like that.
And the basic thing is that the name Kafrin wasn't unique to one person. It was simply a title for a ruler or a number of
Or a priesthood.
Or a priesthood.
That worked around this pyramid. That I would imagine it like that.
Okay.
Let's take, for example, Khufu. The title Khufu was found since 2500 BC and until 300 BC. He never lived that long. And the story of Egyptologists says that his priests kept like the tradition of Khufu being worshipped until the Ptolemy period. You can, it's a nice explanation.
Right.
It's a good answer. Easy, good answer.
Easy answer to a complex question. So here in the neighborhood of the Great Pyramid and the Second Pyramid is this very interesting trench that I believe most or some Egyptologists believe was a boat pit or something like that. What's very curious is this strange blackish, reddish, yellowy material. It looks very iron-like. And we're finding it in, here it is in a seam here it is there, and here again in a bedrock limestone base. So the question is that material natural, or was it a byproduct of some ancient process? So a sample, hopefully at some point, will be sent to scientists in the U.S. in order to find out.
You can see here some of the white calcite stone in the ground,
Oh yeah,
aligned also with the water channel, very similar to what we saw in Abu Sir.
right.
Part of the dynamics is still left. Part of the dynamic of the complex is still left through these water channels, the crystal, and of course the other types of stones. How all the complexes need to be made in two, like this, like two polarities, two sides, with two entrances from the side as well.
Oh wow. And the magnitude of some of these limestone blocks, I'm going to walk it through. This is about 7 feet tall. Starts here, and I'm going to take about 1 yard steps as I go through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And originally, yeah.
So this piece is between 10 and 12 meters at least,
Oh yeah.
and like 2 meters high,
Right.
and like 1.5 meter deep.
That's amazing.
You do the math.
Yeah.
How many bulls you need to drag these? How many men you need to cut this piece out of its original location and drag it all the way, if you're going to drag it all the way here, and then bring it above the mound just to add 1 block to the complex.
Yeah.
This is a challenge. Just 1 block is a challenge to accomplish how they did it.
Right.
So what about the rest of the building?
Not to mention this little thing in the background here. Again, more of the casing stone from Aswan, 500 miles away. In the shadow of the Great Pyramid, so-called Khafre Pyramid, there are these little satellite pyramids, and here you can see the casing stone is still on the very bottom of this one. Very fine limestone without mortar. And the knobs, the curious knobs that are in a lot of constructions in pre-Inca Cusco. And we've seen examples of them here in rose granite in some cases. But here they're projections out from this, well, especially here at the bottom. These beautiful, beautiful shaped knob-like projections. Oop. And again, what would their function have been? In Peru, the conventional story is that they were used as assists in lifting the stone, because you could rope or take a rope and put it around the bottom like that to help you lift the stone up. But this one isn't really that huge. This one has 1, and then why does this one have 2? And if they were used for lifting, then why aren't they at the balance points? This one's at the end, That one's part way in. And this one's off to the right-hand side. So the other possible reasoning behind it could have something to do with energy. If we think of these buildings as being ancient energy generators prior to the existence of the pharaohs, then the knobs could have something to do with the energy control or production or some other related energetic function. This gives us a stellar example of what the casing stone looked like on one of the little pyramids on the Giza Plateau. Very tight-fitting, eroded joints, but originally it looks like you couldn't have fit a knife, a razor blade, or maybe even a human hair in between the cracks in some places. But the trouble is the erosion does make the join not as perfect looking as it would have been when it was originally made. But you see the beautiful smoothness of the surface here. And luckily on this one too. This is another one of the baby pyramids. And again you see the beautiful workmanship in the shadow of the Great Pyramid. And here again. So imagine how gleaming white these would have been at their time of construction. And here in the background, that really god-awful modern building is where they house one of the ships of the pharaohs. But talk about that as compared to that. If that's what modern society is compared to ancient society, I want to be part of ancient society. Thank you.